we would hear something running on our right, and then we would hear something running on our left, and it stopped real quick. And then Dad looked up at up there at the tree, and he's like, oh, I see something.
Suddenly, an immense figure in the dark woods of Florida rushed behind a tree and disappeared, leaving Stacy Brown Sr., a skilled former Army Ranger, and his son completely terrified while looking for Bigfoot at night in May 2012. Then, as fast as it appeared, the figure was gone, and their camera turned off, leaving them in total darkness. Why is Stacy Brown so scared of that creature? Let's investigate this horrific Bigfoot sighting. Was it ever real? The horrible Bigfoot encounter. According to the Browns, odd sounds in the darkness soon interrupted their quiet night. These noises seemed to be moving around them, first heard on one side, then the other, as if something or someone was darting through the trees. As they followed the trail of noises with their camera, Stacy Sr. suddenly spotted what he described as a small, black figure hiding behind a tree. Through the thermal lens, this figure appeared momentarily before it dashed across a gap in the trees and disappeared from sight. At this point, the elder Brown reacted with unexpected fear. He reportedly panicked, a surprising response for someone with military training. His anxiety escalated quickly. He claimed the camera stopped working right then, cutting off their only way to capture what they were seeing. Insisting that they leave immediately, he turned to his son, urgently asking if he had brought a gun.
The camera goes dead. He's like, we gotta go, we gotta go. He's like, do you got your gun?
As told by the Browns, this story sounds like it could be straight out of a thriller movie. There's suspense, a sudden encounter, and a figure that vanishes right as the tension peaks. Adding to the drama, the camera malfunctions at the crucial moment, leaving no evidence but their word. It's easy to see how such details might make the story more enticing to those who follow their documentary work or are interested in Bigfoot tales. Critically speaking, one might wonder if the elements of this story were enhanced for effect. The timing of the camera failure is notably convenient, removing any possibility for others to confirm their account. Such tales often seem designed to draw in audiences, possibly boosting the Browns' profile among supernatural or unexplained phenomena enthusiasts. Moreover, the very act of venturing into the forest at night, equipped with a device meant to detect the invisible, sets the stage for a narrative filled with suspense. It appeals to the human love for exploring the unknown and the thrill of possibly uncovering something hidden. Whether or not the Browns really encountered Bigfoot, their story does what many similar stories do. It stirs the imagination and keeps people talking. Back at their truck, Stacy Jr. was eager to show the footage they had captured. As they watched the video, a particular frame stood out, looking remarkably similar to the famous shot of Patty from the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, which supposedly showed a large, hairy creature walking beside a creek in Northern California. Stacy Jr. felt certain about what they had filmed. "It's clear evidence," he said with conviction. "Think about it. What kind of person would be out here over a mile from the nearest road without a flashlight on a random Tuesday night?" Tony just nodded, maybe agreeing, maybe just keeping the peace. Then came Steve Kulls, a known figure in the Bigfoot research community who seemed never to doubt these sorts of claims. He wasn't surprised by the location of the footage. In Florida, the local version of Bigfoot is known as the skunk ape, named for its strong, unpleasant smell. This area has had its fair share of sightings, Kulls explained, and the descriptions are pretty much the same, a Bigfoot-like creature. They're not as large as those reported in the Pacific Northwest, which could be due to the hot, humid weather here, he added, sounding more like he was guessing than stating facts. The term skunk ape comes from both the creature's supposed stench and its smaller size compared to its northwestern cousins. This name and the details fit neatly with what people expect a Bigfoot from Florida to be like. Kulls mentioned that sightings in these swamps go back to the days of the native tribes, lending an air of historical depth to the ongoing tales. Despite the years of such claims and numerous searches by both believers and skeptics, solid evidence of Bigfoot or the skunk ape's existence remains out of reach. Yet, for enthusiasts like Stacy, Jr. and his father, even a grainy video can seem like solid proof, perhaps more because of their hopes than the actual strength of what they filmed. Whether they truly believe or simply don't want to feel their efforts have been in vain isn't always clear. But they are not alone in their belief, as each new claim brings out more people hoping to finally prove that something unexplained is lurking in the woods. To the outside observer, the ongoing fascination with creatures like Bigfoot might seem driven more by a love of legends than by tangible facts. Every new piece of evidence tends to raise more questions than it answers, yet the hope and excitement never seem to fade. This pattern repeats itself with each sighting, each piece of shaky footage, and each testimonial, knitting together a tapestry of folklore supported more by faith than by proof. In the world of cryptids and those who chase them, the thrill of the hunt, and perhaps the allure of being part of a modern-day legend, often outweighs the need for verifiable evidence. Let's explore another strange tale from the forest, a thermal camera's tale of the unknown. The Seminoles and the Muskogee refer to a figure known as Estikapkaki, or Tall Man, describing him as a protector of the forests. This brings us to the question, was this the same being that the Browns reportedly saw? When experts were called in to analyze the situation, they started by addressing the simplest explanation. Is it just a person out there? Captured using a thermal camera, the image shows a heat pattern consistent across the body, without any disruptions that clothes typically cause. This suggests that whatever it was, it appeared to be unclothed. Tony found it curious why someone would be wandering around the woods without any clothes on. Wildlife biologist Stephanie Manka brought up another angle, suggesting it might be a large primate. Yet, the behavior and physical characteristics of the figure don't match those of any known apes like chimpanzees or gorillas. Particularly, the creature's legs were too long, and unlike gorillas, which sometimes walk hunched on their hind legs, this figure seemed different in its upright movement. Adding to the discussion, Tony proposed a possibility that maybe gorillas or large chimps had escaped from private zoos in Florida, a state with a history of such establishments. However, anthropologist Kathy Strain quickly dismissed this idea. She pointed out that the creature's body shape and its unique way of moving, known as a Groucho walk, characterized by a sneaky, knee-bent manner, were not typical of any known primates. Strain's insight suggested that what was observed didn't match typical animal behaviors recorded in scientific literature. This revelation stirs the pot even more as everyone tries to fit this square peg into the round holes of known animal species. As we delve deeper, the discussion is peppered with individual sightings, vague reports, and rich local tales, yet none provide concrete proof. What are we actually dealing with here? Could it be a clever trick, a misidentified animal, or maybe something entirely unknown that hasn't been documented? The debate continues, energized by the thermal footage and various accounts from people who claim to have seen something unusual. Yet, clear, solid evidence to settle the discussion seems just beyond our grasp, much like the creature itself, always a step ahead in the dense forest of our knowledge. As the conversation develops, it's increasingly apparent that we're navigating a complex web of possibilities and hypotheses, where each seemingly plausible explanation only leads to further questions. Are we chasing shadows? Or is there something tangible behind these accounts? As more experts weigh in, the story becomes a collage of theories and conjectures, each adding color but not clarity, leaving us to ponder on what might be lurking in the unexplored shadows of nature. The Patterson-Gimlin film and similar footage showcase a creature with an unusual walk that seems more like a slow, deliberate shuffle, with its knees always bent. This creature doesn't quite match up with typical human proportions. It has shorter legs in relation to its body, and you can hardly see its neck at all. The arms are another story. They're thick and muscular, almost like those of a bodybuilder, which seems odd for a creature supposed to be living in the wild. This supposed Bigfoot stands much taller than the average person, with estimates often putting it at over 6 feet tall, maybe even reaching 7 feet. Its body is not just tall, but also broad and hefty, making it look powerful and sturdy, not at all like the thinner, more delicate animals one might expect to find roaming the forests. Critics like Tony suggest that if this video were truly believable, it would include more detailed images, perhaps captured with thermal cameras that can see through the trees. They argue that the videos we do see are too convenient, shaky, unclear, and ending just when you think you might get a good look at the creature. This pattern has led some to speculate that maybe all we're seeing is a person in a well-made costume, trying to stir up excitement or fool people into believing they've seen a monster. Moreover, when the camera suddenly stops working, as claimed by Stacy Brown Jr., it adds to the doubt. He insists it's a genuine accident, but it's awfully convenient that such technical failures seem to happen right at the most crucial moment. Dr. Meldrum, who knows Brown personally, believes he didn't make this up. Yet, we must consider whether it's likely or even safe for someone to wander through the woods at night, effectively naked, just for a prank. So what are we really seeing in these films? Are we witnessing a new, undiscovered creature, a real-life giant of the forest? Or is it more plausible that we're looking at a human in a clever disguise, enjoying the stir they cause among viewers and the ongoing debates about their existence? Leaves us in a tough spot. Without solid proof, everyone is left guessing. Are these videos showing a true unknown creature of the woods, or just a tale kept alive by blurry videos and tales passed around by those who want to believe? Our evidence forces us to consider the latter, as the actual scientific proof remains elusive, and the supposed sightings do more to fuel stories and speculation than provide real answers. The conclusion seems to lean towards a crafty creation of myth, rather than a revelation of a hidden truth in the natural world. Next, we dive into the history and recent sightings, the boogeyman's faint echoes. In April 2009, Chuck Newton took his son to the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia to ride their ATV through rough terrain. Their adventure took a surprising turn when they encountered a large, hairy figure walking across their path, bringing their ride to a sudden stop. This incident was captured on a thermal imaging camera, which has sparked debate ever since. The footage was shot at night and shows a figure that appears to be over 7 feet tall, walking on 2 legs. This description usually makes people think of Bigfoot, a creature often discussed in American folklore, especially in areas rich in such legends. Stories from the Cherokee and Virginia support this, describing similar large, hairy beings in the woods, much like the accounts from the Pacific Northwest. Field researcher Cliff Barackman points out that the similarity in descriptions across different cultures and times might suggest these creatures exist.
In Virginia, the Cherokee people had stories of giant hair-covered people-like things in the woods that were doing the same sort of things as the people of the Pacific Northwest described. The most reasonable explanation for these different people describing the same animals is that they were describing the same animals.
Old newspaper articles, like one from 1892, have reported on these beings, known locally as wood boogers, a term used before Sasquatch became popular. This name, similar to boogeyman, was meant to scare people, especially children, from wandering into the woods at night for fear of encountering this creature. However, not everyone is convinced by the video. While Barackman believes Chuck's reaction seems natural and not staged, emphasizing his focus on the creature rather than the camera, others are skeptical. The creature's indifference to the loud ATV is curious. Biologist Floyd Hayes thinks the figure could be just a person in a costume or even part of a staged scene. On the other hand, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an anatomy professor, argues that the creature's behavior could be typical of a Sasquatch if they were real. The story of Sasquatch became popular in the American South after the Civil War, possibly fueled by sightings of Confederate soldiers who hid in the forests and might have been mistaken for wild, hairy creatures. However, this doesn't account for the older Native American legends, which suggest a longer-standing origin for these tales. Critics of the Sasquatch stories argue that such narratives are often used to fill in gaps in our understanding with a supposedly elusive creature. The idea that different cultures independently describing similar creatures confirms their existence is often viewed skeptically. Are these blurry nighttime videos showing us real evidence? Or are we just dressing up our uncertainty in mythical narratives? The movement of the figure in the video also raises questions. It does not move like a bear would on its hind legs, which is a more likely explanation than a mythical creature. Bears walking upright tend to waddle and take shorter steps, but the figure in the video moves with longer, more deliberate strides. Yet, without clearer footage or more evidence, this discussion is likely to go on, driven by a mix of skepticism and a natural human fascination with the unknown. Whether this video shows a real creature, a person in a costume, or something else, it highlights our ongoing interest in the unexplained. The debate over what was really captured on that night reflects our enduring interest in stories of the wild and unknown, feeding into our broader narrative about creatures that exist on the margins of our understanding. In the absence of definitive evidence, these discussions provide as much insight into human nature and our love for storytelling as they do about any potential undiscovered creatures. Encounters with creatures like Sasquatch usually happen near roads or waterways. This particular story unfolds near a stream. Picture an all-terrain vehicle, ATV, making its way up the creek bed, its usual noisy intrusion softened by the stream's natural sound, making it less startling. The interaction captured on video between the witness and the person filming feels genuinely unplanned and convincing, lending credibility to their encounter. As for the idea that this could simply be a person dressed up in a Sasquatch costume, expert Meldrum is skeptical but stops short of ruling it out without more details about the creature's size. He guesses it might be around 7 feet tall at most. Considering that most costumes are designed for people of average height, not those who are 7 or 8 feet tall, a larger than average size would make the costume theory less likely. The experts end up calling it an unidentified mammal, leaving everyone, including me, still wondering. The origin of this series of events traces back to 1991 in the Blue Mountains, north of Mill Creek, Washington. Former forest patrolman and Bigfoot hunter Paul Freeman and a colleague were there looking for signs of Bigfoot. They found what they believed were numerous tracks from the creature.
Sure enough, what they found were hundreds of tracks of a Sasquatch.
Moving forward to 1992, in a nearby area called Deduct Spring, Freeman captured on video what he claimed was Bigfoot walking through the forest. The figure supposedly left more footprints behind. 4 years later, in 1996, even more footprints appeared in a close area known as 5 Points. These footprints were impressively large, about 14 inches long. If they were real, they indicated a very large creature. Barackman points out that many of these footprints were deep, suggesting a heavy creature made them. He highlights a photo that shows a specific feature of the footprints, known as a mid-tarsal pressure ridge, which he says is a key difference between human feet and Sasquatch feet. Unlike humans, who have a stiff arch in their foot, Sasquatches supposedly have a joint that allows their foot to bend. However, some people think that Freeman's findings were just a well-executed hoax. When comparing Freeman's footprints to those known to be fake, made with a wooden foot model, differences are noticeable, especially in how the soil reacts when the foot pushes off.
Upon push-off, sometimes a mound of dirt is raised up behind the metatarsals.
A real foot would disturb the soil differently compared to a rigid, wooden fake. Despite these investigations and debates, no one has been able to conclusively prove whether the footprints and sightings are real or just elaborate hoaxes. It's an ongoing discussion, filled with various claims and arguments, without solid evidence to settle the matter. It seems the saga of Sasquatch is destined to continue wandering through both the literal and metaphorical forests of the region. As such, while the experts remain baffled and my own doubts persist, it's clear that the story of the Sasquatch is far from over, keeping its hold on the curiosity and imagination of those who follow its trail. Now, let's look at the evidence and hear from the experts. The controversial debates in Bigfoot studies. Jeff Meldrum, well known in the world of Bigfoot research, introduced the idea of the mid-tarsal break, which added depth to the ongoing study of Sasquatch. This concept has been significant in the field, though it also continues to spark debates and skepticism. Despite Meldrum's recognized expertise, his findings and theories are often met with doubt, especially when considering the evidence collected by another researcher, Paul Freeman. Freeman faced criticism for his frequent and seemingly too convenient discoveries of evidence. Detractors argued that the sheer volume of evidence he found made his claims suspect. Could someone really encounter so much conclusive evidence so often? Skepticism grew as Freeman's high-profile video and numerous footprint findings were questioned for their authenticity. Meldrum, although a firm believer in Bigfoot's existence, remains cautious of potential frauds. His skepticism led him to unexpectedly visit Freeman to check the validity of his findings personally. Meldrum saw this as a risk worth taking. What did he have to lose apart from possibly undermining his own reputation? When Meldrum inspected the so-called 5 Points tracks, he quickly ruled out the possibility that they were made by any ordinary local animal, like a bear. He noted that bear prints show a distinct shape because their heels don't fully touch the ground, unlike the rounded heel pads seen in the Sasquatch prints he was examining. The defining feature that caught his attention was the mid-tarsal ridge, unique to the Sasquatch prints, and not present in human footprints, indicating a foot adapted for climbing. Meldrum's discovery of a track from Mill Creek, dating back to 1991, further convinced him of the print's authenticity. Despite the passage of time, these prints maintained consistent proportions and orientation, hinting they might come from the same Sasquatch observed over several years. This consistency in the footprints, coupled with newer findings, reinforced his belief in their genuineness and possibly traced back to one individual Sasquatch, suggesting a single creature's presence over decades. Meldrum theorized that Sasquatches could live between 30 to 50 years, implying that an individual responsible for prints in the early 90s could still be alive. This idea supports the notion of a mature Sasquatch persisting in the wilderness, its continued sightings reinforcing its elusive yet enduring existence. On another front, Boyd Sims, intrigued by Bigfoot and a follower of the show The Proof Is Out There, ventured into the Sam Houston National Forest in Texas to record wildlife sounds. Instead, he captured what he believed to be Bigfoot calls, unsettling howls and barks that shocked him, as these sounds didn't match any known animal recordings. These weren't the first supposed recordings of Bigfoot sounds. The Sierra Sound recordings from the 1970s are often touted as the best auditory evidence of Bigfoot's existence. The area continues to be a hot spot for Bigfoot enthusiasts, with over 40 reported sightings each year within the Sam Houston National Forest alone. The quest for Bigfoot continues, supported by people like Meldrum and Sims. Every new piece of evidence fuels further interest and speculation, supported by a community that is eager to prove or at least entertain the possibility of Bigfoot's existence. However, with each new claim, there are always doubters ready to critically examine the findings, leaving many to ponder where reality ends and folklore begins. Some people believe that the sounds recorded in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California might be proof of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, talking in what seems like a language that hasn't been documented yet. Let's look at what various experts think about this possibility. Jeff Meldrum, who studies this subject, proposes that the whoops and barks heard in the recordings might be how this elusive creature, assumed to be quite rare and usually living alone, calls out to find a mate. He thinks these sounds could also mark its territory. Drawing a comparison, Meldrum points to large male orangutans that use similar vocal techniques to claim their space in the jungle. They have special structures in their throats that help amplify their calls, and Meldrum speculates that Sasquatch might have something similar that allows them to make these sounds, possibly even creating infrasound. Infrasound is a type of low-frequency sound that some large animals use for communication over vast distances and can influence the feelings of those who hear it. He suggests it could stimulate certain brain responses, causing feelings of fear. Meldrum extends his theory to suggest that perhaps Sasquatches use this infrasound deliberately to keep humans away, trying to protect their decreasing numbers from intrusion. Then, a forensic audio analyst, Dr. Robert Maher, examines these theories by comparing the recordings to sounds made by known animals in that area. He starts with the wild boar, which makes a distinct chirping sound, quite different from the long howl captured in what's known as the Sam Houston recording. Next, he dismisses the fox, whose sounds are more like chirping than howling. This leaves the coyote, whose call starts at a low pitch and rises, somewhat similar to what was recorded, but Maher cannot say for sure that it's a match. Maher also looks into the Sierra Sounds, another set of recordings often cited as evidence of Bigfoot. He notes that these sounds are shorter and have a different tone from those in the Sam Houston recording, indicating they might not come from the same source. Ultimately, while Maher can't definitively identify what made the sounds, he rules out most local wildlife, though the coyote remains a possibility, albeit an unconfirmed one. He suggests the sounds could be from an unknown animal, keeping the discussion open for those interested in such possibilities. Another incident on May 23, 1997, in the Catskill Mountains of New York, Doug Pridgeon was filming his friends by a campfire at a music festival when a small, two-legged creature appeared in the background, moving agilely between trees and swinging from branches. This led some to speculate it might be a young Sasquatch, given that the creature's movements and the physical demands on the tree branches would be difficult for a human to replicate. We continue with more unusual sightings and tough questions. Pursuing the trails of hidden beings. Reports of young Sasquatch-like creatures have surfaced occasionally, including a historical tale from the 1800s in British Columbia. Railroad workers reportedly encountered a young Sasquatch, incapacitated it with a rock, and held it captive briefly. Newspapers of the day detailed the creature's size and what it would or wouldn't eat before it vanished from the record, fueling speculation about its fate. Some believe it might have been sent to the UK or even bought by P.T. Barnum for his traveling circus. In this latest footage, we are told there's a big Sasquatch somewhere down below and a younger one high up in a tree. The reason we don't often see young Sasquatches, some say, is similar to why we rarely spot baby pigeons or squirrels. The theory is that, like many animals in the wild, Sasquatch mothers might hide their young in hidden spots until they are big and strong enough to face the world. The video reportedly shows this young Sasquatch. However, there are doubts about whether it might just be a human kid playing in the trees.
The problem is humans, for all their agility, don't have the capability to cavort around amongst the branches of a tree.
Critics of the idea argue that although kids are nimble, they don't usually move through trees with the ease shown in the video. This leads them to think that perhaps we're seeing a different kind of creature. Tony, contributing to the conversation, suggests maybe the creature is a young bear because young bears often climb trees. But Dr. Meldrum, an expert in the field, disagrees, pointing out that the creature's body looks more like an ape, particularly a young chimpanzee, based on how its limbs are shaped. According to him, we're either looking at a misplaced young chimpanzee or a young Sasquatch. Steve Kulls, a private investigator, also gets involved to try to get to the bottom of this. He confirms with the owner of the land that no animals are allowed there because of insurance rules. Kulls even checked with local zoos and labs to see if any animals had escaped, but found nothing. Tony then talks to Stephanie Manka, a wildlife biologist, to see if she could offer any new insights into this creature that seems to have some primate-like qualities. Despite all the expert insights and thorough checks, what the creature might be is still up for debate. Each time a new video claiming to show a Bigfoot appears, it reignites discussions and arguments. People who believe in Bigfoot and those who don't end up debating based on a mix of scientific views and a lot of guesswork. The discussions go on, with each side using the latest claims as a base for their arguments. The truth, however, stays hidden, with no clear answers emerging from the ongoing discussions and analyses. Understanding how primates behave, we would typically expect a young primate to stick close to its mother. Primates generally have just a few babies at a time, and they keep these babies very close for a long time. This close bond between mother and young helps protect the offspring from dangers and teaches them how to survive. So it seems strange and quite unlikely that a young primate would be found far away from its mother, especially up in a tree. Also, it's hard to imagine why a primate mother would bring her young into a loud and crowded environment like a music festival. These events are noisy and filled with people, which would be frightening and dangerous for wild animals. This kind of setting offers no real benefits for wildlife, which naturally seek out calm and safe places to stay. Tony's views highlight a clear disagreement with Meldrum's ideas about what kind of creatures they saw. Tony seems to think that the behavior noted doesn't line up with what we know about how primates act. This disagreement points out how important it is to really think about animal behavior before jumping to conclusions about what was seen. It also shows that interpreting animal behavior in unusual situations needs careful thought and a good understanding of how animals typically act. Their differing opinions shed light on the complexities of observing and understanding wildlife, particularly in settings that are not their natural habitats. This discussion serves as a reminder of the challenges in wildlife observation and the need for skepticism and thorough analysis when interpreting unusual sightings. By examining these behaviors through a realistic lens, we can better understand the natural instincts and needs of wild animals, and why certain reported behaviors might seem out of the ordinary. Bears have a particular fondness for human food, and it's not hard to see why. Imagine a festival, bustling with people where food is plentiful and often left unattended. Black bears, always on the lookout for an easy meal, are naturally drawn to such places. The heaps of leftover food are like an open invitation for them to come and feast without much effort. Black bears are also skilled climbers. It's a common sight to see a bear mother encouraging her cubs to climb trees. This is not just for fun, it's a survival strategy. The higher the cubs go, the safer they are from dangers lurking on the ground. So if you notice something lively and agile swinging among the tree branches, it might very well be a young bear, not a primate. The mother bear knows the trees are a safe playground and a good hiding spot for her cubs. During one such festival, a lively creature in the trees became the center of attention. Experts couldn't agree on what it was. Manka, looking at how the creature moved and behaved, thought it was a bear cub. Bear cubs are known for their playful nature, often seen climbing and swinging in trees under their mother's watchful eye. Meldrum, however, noticed something different, the way its limbs were shaped and moved. He argued that it looked more like a primate, which are known for their long limbs and agility in the trees. This sparked a debate with no clear end. Each expert stood firm in their view, using their knowledge to argue for a bear cub or a primate. Yet, all agreed on one thing: it definitely wasn't a human being. The discussion continued, with each side presenting observations and arguments, but no consensus was reached. The creature's true identity remained elusive, hidden behind a veil of partial sightings and expert disagreements. Onlookers and experts continued to speculate, each observation adding to the pool of guesses, but not quite solving the puzzle. The debate seemed to stretch on, with more questions than answers, as the creature in the tree remained just beyond definitive identification, a subject of fascination and continued wonder for all who pondered its origins. What could the legendary creature be? A bear cub or a primate? Like, comment your theories and subscribe for more.